as my neighbor, Johnny Washington, has forestated, what we want is for the city to do the right thing.
Yes.
They have all the evidence that they need to do the right thing. So now is the time to put it in action. Talk is cheap, but now is the time to put it in action.
My name is Robert Gardner. I live on the corner, Atlanta and Common, and I'm a retired city employee. Been retired for 20 years. And for what we are going through is not necessary. It's been proven from the beginning. So we do know, at least I do feel, that there's an alternative objection to what the city wants the property for. And it's not what they said. So we are standing. We were told to stand. Having done all that we could do to stand, we was told to stand anyhow. Yes. And that's what we're going to do. Fighting is easy for us. We've been fighting. How many hundreds of years we've been fighting? So we just want them to leave us alone. Let us live our life in peace for years. Because we don't have a reason to move. And you can't afford nothing. An average working man can't afford nothing in that neighborhood now. No, honey. So where's I'm going? I ain't going nowhere.
All right.
Do the right thing, City Council. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. That's all you got to do. Do the right thing.
My name is Cheryl Calhoun. Maddie Jackson is my mother. My mom can no longer articulate exactly how she feels, but I know how my mom feels. I'm here to continue the fight that she started. So, I'm asking the City Council to quit waiting on my mom to pass, because even when she goes, there's 6 generations that's here to fight for her. And we will stand by our neighbors, and I am standing in for my mom. I am standing in her shadow, and I am standing in front of her. I shall fight for my mom. So City Council, please do the right thing. Go ahead, listen at the engineers, and stop your foolishness, because I will fight for my mom. 163 Army Street, Maddie Ansley Jackson. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Woo! We shall not be moved. Hey! All right. Do the right thing.
Gotta go in.
It's time to go. We got to get in the committee room, because they just want an excuse not to do the right thing. So let's get in the committee room.
Right.
Member Smith, to my left is Councilmember Hillis, and to his left is Councilmember Shook. We are a quorum, and I call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. There is one walk-in resolution that you have before you that we will take at the end of the resolutions. With that amendment, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda. And we have a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item is the approval of the minutes. I'll make a motion to approve. We have a second. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. All right. Next item are public comments pertaining to items on the agenda. And there are 26 people waiting to speak. All right. Is there anyone here who's going to donate their time?
Yes.
Quite a few people. Okay. So let me go through this, if you would. Also want to acknowledge to my far right is Councilmember Shepard, who's joined us. So, Deborah Scott, are you here?
Yes.
Okay. Sharice Brown.
Are you donating your time?
Is let me know if you're donating your time or you're going to speak.
I'm donating my time.
Okay, who are you going to donate to?
Matthew Charles Fund.
Okay. Douglas Dean. And you're speaking or donating time? You're speaking, okay.
Tanya, you want my time?
Columbus Ward.
I'm not going to talk.
Here. Do elected officials, former elected officials need donated time, or they just have their own time?
Excuse me, are you going to speak or donate your time to someone?
That just depends on, I will ask you a question about former elected officials. They usually don't have a certain amount of time.
So, sir, are you going to speak?
I'm going to donate my time.
Okay, who are you going to donate your time to?
Tanya Washington.
Tanya Washington.
Okay. Just get it anyway, right?
Connie Cousins Baker.
I'm donating my time to Tanya Washington.
Edwin Baker.
Donating to Tanya Washington.
Okay.
By the time they finish,
William Clark.
Donating to Jeff Moran.
You gonna speak? I put on
Australia Cochran.
I will be donating my time to my baby brother, David Berry.
Man, we'll jack you up next time you come to my campus.
All right, Edwin Rogers.
Donating my time to David Berry.
He's donating his time to David Berry.
Thank you.
Not yet. Not yet. Then call.
Bertha Darden.
Look.
Here.
See that? It's running.
You'll be speaking?
This right here?
Yeah.
It's running.
I got you.
Okay.
Cheryl Calhoun.
Speaking.
Afunwanla Fundali.
Donating my time to Kimberly Anderson.
Okay.
I'm gonna forgive you this time. Go ahead.
I'm sure.
All right, Ariel Singleton.
Donating my time to Deborah Scott.
David Berry.
I'll be speaking.
Okay. Jeff Moran.
I will be speaking.
Tim Franzen.
I'll be donating to Jeff Moran.
Kimberly Scott.
Speaking.
And that's Kimberly Scott Anderson. That's the same person.
Kimberly Scott Anderson. Is that correct?
It's just Kimberly Scott.
Okay. So the other Anderson is for Scott.
Jordan Brown.
Donating my time to Kimberly Scott.
Well, I'm doing it mine too. All right, I'm probably not sure.
Clyde Bradley.
Yeah. Cheryl Calhoun.
I'm sorry?
Cheryl Calhoun.
Cheryl Calhoun?
Yes.
Okay. Mike Martinez.
I will speak.
Robert Darden.
Speaking.
Matthew Charles Cardinale.
Speaking, and I'm supposed to have donated time from Ms. Brown and Ms. Allison Johnson.
Right now I have you donated time from Sharice Brown.
Okay, and Allison signed up shortly after.
All right, Allison Johnson.
Yes, donating time to Matthew.
There you go.
All right, let's get it going.
Andrew Hicks.
Donating my time
to
Cheryl Calhoun.
Deborah Scott. Stephen Films.
Donating some to Sonia Washington.
Joetta Burnett.
Speaking.
Nathaniel Johnson.
Donating my time to Deborah Scott.
Tanya Washington.
Speaking.
Randy Four.
I'm donating my time to Deborah Scott.
Joel Caldwell.
Yes, I'm donating my time to Jeff Moran.
Joe Cartwright.
Donating my time to Garden.
So we're going to go ahead and start with the people who have don't have donated time, and then we'll get at the end all of the folks who have donated time. So Douglas Dean, I believe, is the first person.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Douglas Dean, former state legislator, 56 House District. I come here this morning with mixed emotion because I've gone through my lifetime growing up in Summerhill. 4 generations of my family came out of Summerhill, and I know what eminent domain means to a community. Well, I know that at one time Summerhill had 7 grocery stores and don't have one today. Nowhere in the south side of the city, Peopletown, Mechanicsville, have a grocery store. We was impacted by eminent domain. Back then, the city didn't even give benefits. Now the federal government at least put in some money to be sure that people can be made whole in other neighborhoods when they are pushed out. But this is a teaching moment in Atlanta. We got 4 neighbors, community people who have gone through 6 years of total harassment by this city government. But I think this is a teaching moment because we have a chance this morning, this committee, to send the city council a piece of legislation that will reverse what has happened over the last 6 years. We can change something that we did bad, bad public policy, and do the right thing and allow these people to stay in this community. Sometimes I can't sleep at night to think about the work that Maddie Jackson has done in this community, in particular this city, to make this a better place for all of us to live. Maddie Jackson is 97 years old, told us 30 years ago that she was going to live to be 100. But she spent most of her life trying to improve the livelihood of many families across this city. This would be a great gift to Maddie Jackson in the sense that not only is she going to stay in the community, but her neighbors will have the opportunity to stay in this community. Now, I've heard a lot of stuff about ponds and walls and all the kinds of things, but we have a recommendation to this committee. It's on page 15. This is a recommendation from architects and engineers that will allow the city to accomplish what they want to accomplish. Some people want a pond, it would also give an opportunity to have a pond. But it shouldn't be the only thing that this committee concentrate on. This committee ought to concentrate on Maddie Jackson House at 163 Almond Street. Miss Tanya Washington House that's at 153 Atlanta Avenue. The family that lives at 148 Washington, Atlanta Avenue. 206, it's another family. There is no reason that we ought not to adopt this plan and reject what I call a solution that will make a win-win situation to all of us. But the city got to get beyond win and talk about what is right, what is moral for us to do in this city. I was hoping that my city council person was here, George Shepard. She was here but left the room. I'm glad to see my other council member. Even though she's not serving and representing Pittsburgh, she still do help us in trying to bring about fairness in the community, Cleveland Westover. So I called on them today, stand up and help us come to an agreement and send this paper to city council on to allow these individuals to stay in our neighborhood. We already fighting gentrification. I was at a meeting last night and really to tell the truth, I'm 72 years old and given up 50 years of public service, 20 elected, 30 in the community. I was at a meeting last night, we were talking about Georgia Power going up on our electric bill. I'm here at City Hall today talking about a situation which should not even exist. But I just wanted to say to you all, do the right thing. Pass this legislation. I commend Andre Dickens and Michael Bowen for introducing this legislation. And I believe they introduced it because they know that the city has made a mistake, that the city is bad policy, sir, and that you can correct that.
Yeah, sir, you're over, and we appreciate your comments. Thank you for your comments.
So, Mr. Chairman, in closing, I just ask you all to do the right thing.
Tell it.
Do the right thing.
Tell it.
Tell it.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Bertha Darden.
I have time, extra time.
Oh, excuse me. Yes.
Yes, she does.
No, I want to know, I have extra time, so
Yeah,
am I going to
I
get
found
there?
it. I found it.
Yeah, Mike Martinez, please.
All right.
Good morning. I'm Mike Martinez. I work with Dart Container Corporation. We manufacture a variety of food service products out of plastic, paper, and compostable materials. I'm here today to talk about our opposition to item 22, which is the proposed ordinance to prohibit the use of single-use plastics at the airport and in public buildings in Atlanta. I've been doing this job now for 27 years, and one of the things I've learned in all of those years is that every product, every material type has a trade-off. We make all of these kinds of products, and what we found that if you eliminate single-use plastics, you haven't eliminated any of your problems with solid waste. What happens is those materials are replaced by other materials. Take paper products, for example. If you use paper cups, they have a much harsher environmental footprint than plastic products. They're worse on greenhouse gases. They're even harder to recycle than plastic products. And they cost more, sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much, depending on how you purchase those items. So when you reduce single-use plastics, all you've done is change one environmental issue for another. If you go to compostable products, which we manufacture, you still have environmental consequences. If those compostable products are not put into a composting facility, then they're no more biodegradable, no more likely to disappear than any other type of product. It's, I know, very chic and very trendy now to ban single-use plastics. We see that in a lot of communities across the nation. But it doesn't get you where you need to be. There are other solutions. One of the products that we make are polystyrene foam cups. That material is being recycled in Atlanta through the Charm Center. If that product were banned in facilities or at the airport, it's going to be much harder to get those materials and have them recycled. I think a better solution than banning any type of product is to put together a group of stakeholders. Sit down, roll up your sleeves, come up with some solutions. Things that get the city of Atlanta closer to where it needs to be with respect to solid waste management. Doing the easy thing is not always the best public policy. I stand ready, willing, and able to work with the city, as do other people in our industry and in our company, to try to make sure that we have some solutions other than banning a particular product. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Robert Darden.
My name is Robert Darden, and I live at 206 Atlanta Avenue in southeast Atlanta, Georgia. Moved to Atlanta in '69. Got a job with the city. Same week. I've been retired from the city. 29 years worth of city employment. Moved in the neighborhood to where I am now. Been there for a long time. And now the city want to take my home. But now, I know I got to fight.
You sure right.
I don't mind fighting. I look at the role models that came before me. What if they didn't stand on what they believe? Now, I look at the generation behind me. What if I don't stand up and fight for what I believe in? Now, all we asking the city to do is do the right thing. It's been proven by the city-owned engineer that they don't need this block. But now they got it except for 2 homes. But we planning on staying. Whatever I have to do within the rights, I'm gonna do it. Because I gotta fight now. There are generations coming behind me. Somebody got to give them an example. I want to be an example that if you believe and stand firm on what you believe and fight for what you believe, you could have it. Especially when you've been falsely accused. I thank you.
Joanna Burnett.
I'm here for eminent domain, and it's sad that it's still going on in 2019. The great land robbery, the shameful story of how 1 million black families have been ripped from their land. Land was ours, meaning African American beaches, they owned the beach land from Jim Crow to the Sunbelt South to the Gulf of Mexico, and banished here in Georgia. And if they didn't leave their houses at midnight, they were lynched, killed, or just never found no more. These Holocaust genocides and ethnic cleansing should end. Now when is it going to end? That's all that came into accident. When is the great land robbery of these black people in America going to end? On their aboriginal indigenous lands. Can it end now? Can it end this week? Can it end? That's what I'm asking. That's what I came here to ask. Is anyone going to answer me? I just want an answer. No one's going to answer? Well, that's why I came. Because of the great land robbery of Aboriginal black folk here in America. It's just like they are still slaves. It's just slavery by another name. Slavery by another name. When is the slavery going to end? This is 2019. Is it going to end? Thank you.
All right, now we're up to folks that have extra time. I'm going to call them in this order. Bertha Darden. Yep, 6 minutes.
Good morning, Councilman. Today I stand with mixed emotions because when I look and see that the people that hold the decision to help us in their hands and know that they can help us and don't help us, it makes me feel bad. Because you're in your office because you were voted in. And you're voted in to help the people. And when we ask for help and don't get it, it makes me wonder, why are you in the seat that you're sitting in?
Thank you.
And I'm sorry to say it, but why are you in the seat that you're sitting in? Because fair is fair. Right is right. And wrong is wrong. And what is been happening to our neighborhood, taking the homes by eminent domain, is wrong. And when the evidence has been presented, and you see it, you hear it, you read it, now it's time to believe it. Believe it. Now is the time to believe what's right. So don't put off what you need to do. Remember my father said, don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. What you need to do today is do the right thing. Because when you do wrong, you got to give an account of that. You have to give an account of your wrongdoing. So city council, mayor, our former mayor, and all those that have us in this predicament. You're going to have to give an account of the wrong that you did. And so it's no saying, I didn't do it. It's a vote. You vote. And you vote from your heart. If you know what's right to do, then it's time to do what's right. Because when you have to give an account of that wrong, you may be in for a bad. Hear what I say now? You may be in for a bad situation. Because it's wrong to treat people wrong.
True.
It's wrong to treat people wrong. I had said I was going to say something else, but God said, no, tell them what's wrong. It's wrong to treat people wrong. Put us out of our house without just cause. And you know that there was another solution, but you didn't take it. And here it is now in your hands. It's in your hands. So it's up to you to do what's right. Because if you do what's wrong, you're going to have to give an account of it. Yes, you're going to have to give an account of it. And I hate for you to be in the situation that our former mayor is in. I hate for you to be in the situation our former mayor is in. Because we met with him and we told him that if he don't do right by us, he's going to have to give an account of it. And everything that he think about doing right, everything that he think about doing, it's going to start crumbling. It's going to start crumbling. Yes, it's going to start crumbling. So, city council, you're here for the people. You're here for us. And so we're asking you to do what's right. Your two city councilmen that sit with you, Michael Jr. Bunk, Andrew Dickinson, they saw and they know what was right to do. So now, it's up to you to do what's right. It's up to you to do what's right. Because, look, God has given me some peace.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes, yes.
God has given me some peace. Yes, He has given me some peace. Because the truth is out. The truth is out. There was another solution. We stayed in the fight for them to give us the documents so our engineers can go through and find it, present it to you, even giving a copy to our mayor. So what's the hold up now? What's the hold up now? I am 64 years old. I have a grandson that's in high school that I want to go see play football his senior year. But there was a time when I was just standing in my front yard and the gas man from the city came to turn our gas off and told us, don't you know your house is on the list to be demolished? So what are you going to do now? Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Kimberly Anderson. Kimberly Anderson. Kimberly Anderson.
It's Kimberly Scott.
Kimberly Scott.
Is there a Kimberly Anderson here?
It's the same person. We wrote the name wrong.
Yeah. All right, Cheryl Calhoun.
No, he didn't want to hear that.
You'll have 9 minutes.
First of all, it's not a good morning, but you all can make it a good evening. My mother's Maddie Jackson. My mom can no longer articulate how she feels. And I blame a lot of that on the city. I retired to come back home to help take care of my mom. When they decided that they wanted to take the homes, I could see my mom health declining. Back and forth trying to pack. As of this day, my mom's goods are all packed up because she said that she had to go. Now, I don't think the city did anything good when they said she can stay as long as she lived, because at that time my mom was 94. And it's been stated before, they thought she would have been dead now. Had Tanya been 94, had Miss Doran been 94, and Dwayne, the other neighbor on Armour Street, had been 94, we wouldn't be here because they would have told them they could stay until as long as they want to live. Because at that time, if they had been 94, they would have gave them the same option they gave my mom. By means of doing this, it destroyed a good neighborhood. I saw my neighbors, the bakers leave. I saw other neighbors leave. That was the neighborhood. I don't know what it's called now. Yes, it looked good and everything, but you have people that's being forced out. I think what you all need to do is correct this wrong that you made. It was wrong because I have no idea what happened. I was living in Kentucky at that time, but like I said, I came home to take care of my mom. And I've seen it decline. I've seen a lot of different things. And I don't have anything prepared, written out. I can only speak for what I observed. And most of you all that know my mom is a talker. But I stand for my mom. I see you smile, you know my mom. I stand for my mom, and my mom stands for right. What you all did was wrong. And it needs to be made whole, and it needs to be made right. Now, I'm going to stand with other neighbors to fight. I'm going to do what my mom would have done. And as of this day, if you talk to my mom now, she look around her home. Yes, my mom has Alzheimer's. She look around her home, and the only thing she can say, this is my house. Because that's the last fight my mom had. Yes. And I truly blame the city for that. And if I feel that if a person wants to leave their neighborhood, those that left, they have a right to leave, but I don't think they have a right to be forced out under false pretense. So if you're going to do it, do the right thing. Let the neighbors stay. Listen at the engineers. They're going to do, and they're going to provide you with all the necessary information that was provided wrong at first. And I stand behind my neighbors. I stand behind those that left. Those that was wrong, that didn't want to leave, that were forced out. So what I'm asking is that if the city can just do the right thing, because we're not going anywhere. I think maybe some of these people will be fighting until they're 94. So therefore, they told my mom once, and like my mom stated, they think I'm going to be dead, but I'm going to outlive them all.
Big Maddie Jackson.
And it's even been mentioned that they're in stage 1, and when my mom passed, she's going to be in stage 2. There are 6 generations of us all from one person.
Excuse me. That camera should be on her face, and I'm not sure why it's panning the room and not on her face, but the city of Atlanta needs to see this. So if you can get the camera on her face, these are citizens of Atlanta that came to speak to their city council. Her face needs to be on the camera. So I don't know who's playing games today, but this is not the day. We'll wait. Everybody stand up. We'll wait.
All right. Face the camera too. Let's get it shown the way it's supposed to look.
So we don't control the camera up
well,
here?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you do.
No, we don't.
Okay, well they work for you. We'll wait.
Continue.
Nope.
Your time is rolling.
Nope.
Yes, it is. Your time is rolling. You have 5 minutes remaining.
They don't work for the city.
Time for a protest.
They don't work for the city.
Is this how we're going to do this today?
That's how we're going to do it.
So when the developers come up, their face is on the camera. When the people come up, their back is on the camera.
Let me say this. You said my time is rolling. Will you be up for election again?
Right, your time is rolling.
Please know that your time will be rolling.
It's on camera too.
Everybody's time is rolling. The only thing I'm asking, whether or not it's on the camera or not, is that you all do the right thing about the neighbors.
Do the right thing.
You know, just do the right thing. And I understand, and I read face pretty well. I worked in correction for over 23 years, and I know when people is trying to throw me some crap. And that's what I'm seeing right now. And like I said, I am my mother's child. I share a birthday with my mother. And you all wasn't doing my mother a favor when you all said that she could stay as long stay. You all thought she would have died. Maybe not you, but the mayor, the ex-mayor.
It's on. Amen.
You know,
Praise the Lord.
I can carry on without a camera. My voice is going to resonate regardless. So, you know, the stone look on your face, I've had that too because I have a child and I know that look. I give my child that same look when I don't care to hear what she has to say. And I read you very well. You know, regardless whether or not it's coming in or not, it's going to reach somebody. It may not reach you at this moment, but it's going to reach someone. And as long as my mother's breathing, my mother's still saying that she's going to live to be 113. And she probably, as she stated, probably outlive you all. And with the attitude that you have, you're going to make yourself sick because I'm not going to stress out over what's right. Because it's up to you all to make a wrong right. And you all messed it up. You did it. It may not have been exactly you, but you can correct it. You can sleep better at night, which I am. And like I said, it's not a good morning, but you all can make it a good night. Have a good one.
David Berry.
Praise God.
Nine minutes, please.
You would think in 2019 would.
I thank you for this opportunity. I'm David Berry, one of the sons of Robert Darby. My sister here. And I just wanted to speak on behalf of my mother and father and just to share with you from my heart. Growing up in People's Town in Summer Hill, it was not easy. First of all, you're a kid, you didn't know what was going on until one day one asked for, hey, wanna order a pizza, Mom? Can you order a pizza? So she called Pizza Hut, and Pizza Hut said, we don't deliver in People's Town. So I understood then, but even though the outside environment was one way, they made a home for young black males.
Yes.
Young black men who society say are not going to be anybody. But we were able to live in that environment because of that home that they made, that the city is now trying to take. The home that they worked so hard for. Seeing them get up every morning, day in and day out, working on jobs that are paying them a little or nothing, but with the thought in mind that this is the American way.
Yeah.
And I believe that they knew that something at the end of the day that they will have for their own family to see. And now for something to be taken away from them that rightfully belongs to them is wrong.
Yes.
It's just wrong. Not only that, I just want you to hear who they are as people. They are providers. They are genuine, loving people who give from their heart, who help people. Help people. That's their desire. They don't have to have a position to help people because it's their mission to help people. Some people want the position, but they forget about the mission. Your mission is to help people. The position sometimes, you know, get mixed up with the whole goal in mind. But their desire to help people inspired so many people in this community. Helping single mothers. Helping senior citizens. I see them sometimes when they need to just go home and just rest. They out helping people. Helping people. Sometimes single mothers don't have money.
Take your time.
All right. To fix their cars. My dad outside. Helping me. Sometimes 12 o'clock in the morning. Working on their cars because they didn't have money. My mother going and picking up senior citizens. Taking them places. Taking them places. Sometimes just giving money to people who need money. Even though they got 4 kids. Helping people. That's what this is all about. We're about the mission, not about position. Helping people. And I asked them, why? Sometimes I know they're being taken advantage of. And even though they know they're being taken advantage of, they still helping people. And I asked them, why? Why are you doing it? And I'll never forget what he said. My father, this man right here, he said, no matter what people do to you, you still help people. Because you never know when you might need somebody to help you. I'm just asking right now today, is this the day that somebody helped them?
Yes.
Like they helped so many others. Is this the day that somebody find it in their heart to be genuine? Forget about your position. Think about the mission. The mission, the goal that you have. He said, I want to make sure that I help somebody. No matter what my position is. He said, I want people to remember me by as somebody who helped others. That's what this is all about. We're just asking that you forget about your position for a little while and think about the mission. Just think about the people that you want to help. Think about all of these people out here just and it's the right thing to do. We're not asking for something that's out of your power. It's within your reach. You are able to do it. And I believe you can do it. I believe it's in your heart to do it. I believe it's in your heart to do it. It's in your heart to do it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next speaker is Chef Moran. 10 minutes, please.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Moran. I'm with House Moran Consulting. And I just want to verify, have you been given a handout, this package? I'm going to be referring to it in the 10 minutes I have. It's a lot of information. I don't expect you to flip through all of it. But it substantiates our position, our role, and our recommendations as it pertains to the engineering at Peoplestown. The first attachment is a download from our website. And the reason I did that and provided it to Ms. Washington was to show that this is our area of expertise, clearly and wholly. We are experts in hydrology and hydraulics modeling and stormwater management planning on city, county-wide initiatives. Our staff has done dozens of such work in the Atlanta metropolitan area. The other key point to this is when Tanya Washington was experiencing the potential of being removed from her home, she started to call engineering firms in the area. After the 4th or 5th call, she was recommended to call my business partner, the CEO of the company, Jeff House. The reason for that is Jeff House is an expert in the field of H&H modeling. In fact, he's a pioneer in this field with over 4 decades of experience. So this work came to us through a recommendation, which, by the way, is how we get all our work. We don't respond to proposals. Everything is by reference because this is our area of expertise. The key point there is when Miss Washington was talking to Jeff House about the scope of work. It was made very clear to her that, yes, we're experts in the field, we will do our job, but we represent the engineering, and we weren't signing up to side with her on her position. There was no bias coming into this contract. So we did the data request for the city to provide us, very comprehensive list. We've reviewed what was provided, we've testified, and we've rendered an opinion. And with that, I want to go through some of what we experienced through this process. So the next attachment, there's 3 emails. The first of which is from Andrew Walter. And he's complaining that he's asking time and time again for engineering data, specifically the H&H modeling results. He's claiming that the ponds are being over-designed throughout the watershed. The next email is from Kimberly Palmer. Kimberly is the project manager, the most important person on the project. This is a year later, after the prior email. She makes a statement that the engineering does not validate the actions of Peoplestown. Very significant statement. The third email from Nolan Johnson, licensed engineer in the state of Georgia, makes a statement that the mitigation that was proposed exceeds the retention capacity required in this initiative, and therefore the city stands to save tens of millions of dollars. The third attachment, attachment C, is a table provided to us in the discovery documents, and it summarizes the mitigation measures. There's Conley Vault, Media Vault, Best Management Practices, or BMPs, permeable pavers, and Peoplestown retention ponds. And there's values associated with each of those items, and they're the millions of gallons that can be retained to mitigate the flooding throughout the watershed, including Peoplestown. The key to that table is the 2.15 million gallons that is specified there. That is a city number. That's a number that we used as a go-by. And I'm going to segue into a meeting that we had back in April of this year with Mayor Bottoms. She was kind enough to meet with myself and the Dardens to talk about the issue of Peoplestown. I, of course, represented the engineering component. Walked her through the procedure, my professional position, the company's take on it, and she asked for recommendations. I said we were not scoped to do so, but we can do so. And this right here is what we prepared for the mayor. So the final attachment, the fourth attachment, you'll see a narrative explaining there's 15 schematics, and there's an explanation for each one of those. The 2 most important ones are the number 2, that's what the city proposed. It has the 3 ponds, and then on the 15th slide, which is this, right behind me, it's what we propose as an alternative. And it's really important to understand, this is just conceptual in nature, but we did use the city's numbers. This is a city schematic, we just modified it. And I just want to talk a little bit about this to convey that I professionally believe that there's a win-win solution from an engineering perspective, where the capacity requirements specified by the city can be met, and the ponds to hold that capacity can fit within the footprint, avoiding the utilities and the existing homes at Peoplestown. The key point is this: from an engineering perspective, it's very easy for somebody to say, well, we can't do this because. But that is not standard practice for engineers. We are problem solvers. I assure you, this can be done from an engineering perspective. And I'll give a couple of just basic examples. To increase the capacity of these ponds, you can simply raise the elevation of them, the berms, make them higher. Can significantly increase the capacity. The shape is irregular. They can be reshaped to avoid utilities or any other obstruction that we may not know about in this conceptual design. But I want it to be understood and believe that this option is a viable option. Now, the components that are missing, what is the cost and how long does that take? So from an engineering perspective, I assure you it can be done. We did not do a cost analysis on it. We don't know what the time is. If you have engineers telling you this cannot be done, my recommendation is seek another opinion from other engineers.
Yes.
Okay? So that's all I have.
Well done.
Kimberly Scott. Kimberly Palmer Scott. 6 minutes, please.
Good morning. To CUC Board Chair Matt Sickes, to the Board Chair members, including my City Council member that in her absence. My name is Kimberly Scott, formerly Palmer. I am a West End Historic District resident as well as a former City of Atlanta employee. As you may be aware, or if not, I am the engineering project manager that during the discovery period, the emails actually sparked a re-review of this case, as well as getting us to the point where we are right now in looking to overturn the eminent domain ordinance and condemnation processes that are in place. I would like to appeal right now to the true public servants that are my former colleagues that worked with me on this project, as well as in the Department of Watershed Management. Being a resident of West End as well as a Atlanta native, I am a proud graduate of Frederick Douglass High School under the Center for Engineering Technology department that included a magnet program for engineers and those that were interested in going to engineering. And I am a graduate of Vanderbilt University with a degree in chemical engineering, so the credentials are there. So we don't want to really go into the specifics of trying to discount that. But I did have an opportunity and really wanted to make sure that the engineering data was in place for the city to make a decision on whether or not the pond footprint would be expanded. When we were working on the project, it included taking care of the principal homes that experienced some severe flooding during that time. And we did not have sufficient engineering data from our engineering consultants to go from 3 to 4 homes where you had the severe flooding to displacing an entire block. So right now, we really want the city to be able to right or wrong. When I came in and with my credentials, I was raised professionally by an African-American engineer that taught me to design with a moral compass. That moral compass meant that when you design as if you live there. You design as if this is impacting your neighborhood, your street. And that's how I have worked with the City of Atlanta as a private consultant and will continue to work. And I'm appealing once again to my colleagues that somebody, said to me, thank you, Kim, for doing the right thing when no one was looking. I know a lot of people talk about corruption in the City of Atlanta, but there's some great work that's being done by some engineers and geologists and people of technical backgrounds, people with non-technical backgrounds that's doing some really good work. And I think you need to be applauded for your work, but I also think that this is an opportunity in a culture where it can be very political. Engineering work can be very political, as well as where you are told not to put things in writing. This is a time for you to right or wrong. This is a time for you to look at this and say, at that time, we did not have sufficient data to move forward with condemnation legislation that would displace an entire block. This is the time for you to reconsider the engineering data that has been provided right now and look at a redesign that will keep these residents in their homes, as well as, and I would like to add, to not undermine the structural integrity of their homes. We know that sometimes people can be condescending with their promises, and we don't want an engineering design that you put in place that will take away from the structural integrity of their home. So I'm asking the city once again, and I'm appealing to my fellow colleagues, those that have worked with me in the community as well as the City Hall, to reconsider this legislation. Keep these people in their homes, as well as to look at the redesign and make sure that it's a win-win for everybody. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Matthew Cardinale, please. Matthew Cardinale. Mr. Cardinale, are you here? Mr. Cardinale. All right, we're going to go on to Tanya Wash.
All right, he's here.
Mr. Cardinale.
I was in the overflow.
Glad you could join us. 9 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I don't see my time. Oh, there it is. Good morning. This is Matthew Charles Cardinale speaking in my personal capacity today. So, as it relates to the eminent domain issue, I want to hereby reincorporate all my previous comments from 2 weeks ago. No need to restate all of that. But I did want to say, you know, y'all just love to hold them, you know. But this isn't Texas. Why are we holding this? I think at the very least we deserve some general statement as to why this is being held, so we can understand: is there something that's being worked on? How can the community assist? If so, once this is resolved, I also think we need to make some long-term policy changes. And Professor Washington and I have had the opportunity over the last few years to talk about procedural improvements that are needed. For example, we could require that any and all eminent domain papers include an attachment that would be the documentation of the search for alternatives, so that you all, the legislative branch, could actually take an independent look at that each time. And I think as a city, we need to commit to further longevity to any public benefit that would come out of an eminent domain than is required under state law. You know, I was sickened that we displaced people for a civic center and then we decided we didn't need a civic center anymore. You know, and we displaced people for what, you know, for what came before Turner Field, and, you know, we didn't need Turner Field anymore. So if we're going to displace people, I think we should commit as a city to like a 99-year public benefit. We're tired of all the baits and the switches. Okay? But I am I'm the CEO, as you all know, of Smart ALEC, State and Municipal Action for Results Today. And we're like the progressive alternative to ALEC. Since 2016, Sharice Brown, Dr. Farmer, and I have been developing model legislation for affordable housing, democracy, and the environment. And Atlanta has been kind of like our primary laboratory of democracy, although we've worked with New Orleans and other jurisdictions. In recognition of the need to become a technical expert on environmental issues, in July, I went back to law school. I began an online LLM in environmental law because I felt like the urgency of environmental issues required me to have more expertise. So I'm studying the statutory and regulatory schemes, and there are many shortcomings. So today, while I'm here, and the previous speaker spoke about the plastic bag ordinance, I want to present two legislative proposals that Smart ALEC has drafted as model legislation. One is a resolution declaring a climate emergency, as many other cities, counties, and states have done across the country. And the second is the creation of an emergency committee on the environment. So I did ask one of the analysts to distribute this packet that contains both of them. I think the climate resolution speaks for itself. It is also our position that a committee on the environment is needed in the Atlanta City Council. We have no committee whose charge is to put the environment first, to monitor our progress on meeting environmental goals, like our clean energy goals that we adopted. Mother Earth has been treated as a nuisance and an afterthought. This committee, City Utilities, has become the de facto environmental committee. The proposal to ban single-use plastics in city facilities was sent here not because it really impacts city utilities, but because other environmental issues have historically been sent here. Garbage, recycling, water consent decree. We need to have an open, transparent conversation with the public about why this ban is needed. People don't understand that the plastic that they put in a blue bin for recycling could end up in the ocean, in the fish we eat, in the whales who are washing up on shore, in a landfill releasing methane gas, which is worse than carbon dioxide. So I was disappointed by the 2-minute discussion in this committee to hold that raised state preemption issues that were unwarranted, as well as concerns about cost to businesses. As for state preemption, ALEC, our nemesis ALEC, has a bill to preempt environmental laws at the state level. Georgia considered it and rejected it. And it was one of the islands, I believe it was St. Simon's Island, that banned plastic bags. The state wanted to stop it, they didn't do it. And Councilman Shook, we love you dearly, but there will be no commerce. There will be no commerce without a habitable planet. There will be no utilities without a habitable planet. There will be no finance without a habitable planet. We've gotten to the point where we can't balance our planet with our GDP or with economic concerns anymore. There's nothing left to balance. Where was the discussion of the need for or the benefit of the legislation proposed by Mr. Faroki, and thank you for joining as a co-sponsor. Mr. Hillis, ethylene oxide is just the tip of the iceberg. Our executive branch has been taking the lead on environmental issues with grant funding that they received, the Office of Resilience, the Office of Sustainability. Not many issues where we see the executive branch outpacing the council in the city of Atlanta. But we're looking for a hero, okay? Kwanzaa, when he was on the council, Councilman Hall, was taking the lead on a lot of environmental issues. So who's gonna fill that gap? What would a committee on the environment do? By the way, Angela Campbell, we miss you. I brought this idea up to Angela Campbell. She thought it was a great idea. That was our analyst for, what, 20 years. So a committee on the environment would oversee the following issues. A, environmental stewardship and protection generally. B, consideration and advancement of progressive and proactive policies around environmental stewardship and protection. C, monitoring and promoting progress towards the meeting of any and all environmental goals adopted by the City of Atlanta. D, increasing recycling in the City of Atlanta. E, increasing the use of renewable energy in the City of Atlanta. F, promoting air and water quality in the City of Atlanta. G, preserving and growing Atlanta's tree canopy. H, proactively preventing and mitigating flooding that can be exacerbated by development. I, considering environmental impacts of policy decisions. And J, Office of Resilience, concurrent oversight with this committee. In the meantime, as it relates to the plastic ban, I think we need a work session on these issues. And until we have a committee on the environment, we need to have a conversation about, again, the need for this legislation, the benefits. What are the alternatives to plastic? You know, where's my cup? This styrofoam cup that I got from the first floor is an abomination. You know, but what are the alternatives? I think a work session could go through paper. Let's discuss paper, pros, cons. The previous speaker stated that paper is hard to recycle. I have a hard time believing that paper is harder to recycle than plastic. I'm willing to believe it. I have a hard time believing it. But at least when paper breaks down, it doesn't put microplastics in the entire ecosystem, and whales aren't washing up on shore with paper components in their stomachs. Well, I'm out of time. I got 13 seconds. Anyway, I've distributed this to you. If anybody wants to discuss the idea further, you all know how to reach me. Thank you very much.
All right, we've got 3 final speakers, Tanya Washington, Deborah Scott, and Vincent Ford. 10 minutes for Tanya Washington, please.
Good morning, Councilman. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. So it's good to be here. I am optimistic and hopeful that given that you all are making a decision based on what is possible, what is feasible, as an engineering matter, that you are going to make the right decision. I am so glad that the engineer that we retained, and it wasn't just an engineer, it was a firm of engineers. Their information is in the packet. Their bios stand up to the bios of anybody in the City of Atlanta's Department of Watershed in terms of experience and expertise. And I hope that you will consider that, because they put a plan together based on the information that was provided by the Department of Watershed in the discovery context. They helped us put our discovery together, what information we should ask for so they could look and assess the feasibility and necessity of the proposed plan that is being used to justify taking the homes on our block. So they didn't just make up numbers. This data and this information came from the city engineers. I want to call your attention to the cover letter of the document that you were provided, because I want to read the emails that Mr. Moran referenced. These are serious questions that were being raised before the first home went down about the necessity of this plan. If you look at the bottom of the first page, this is Andrew Walter saying, I feel like I've been making this comment over and over, but we really need to be more rigorous in our design review and insist that all information requested from the consultants be provided. If we had all this information, we could make intelligent decisions about the cost, benefit, and value of various projects rather than just guessing. Guessing when you're taking people's homes, that's not responsible. The second email from Ms. Kimberly Palmer, who was the project manager on the project, dated September 11, 2013. The present modeling results do not validate the need for a retention pond in Peoplestown. That's the person who signs off on the project, according to engineering protocol. The third email from another City of Atlanta engineer, Knowlton Johnson, dated February 4th, 2014, we'll be able to exceed our peak flow reduction objective at Peoplestown. The city stands to save tens of millions of dollars, and that is without the proposed park and pond. So what I want to draw out for you is a timeline. Ms. Palmer testified in court that she was asking for this information over and over and over again and never received it. And then she was terminated. And then several weeks later, the ordinance was introduced authorizing the use of eminent domain. That is a specious timeline. That raises questions about whether the engineering data was ever done. And engineering data that's given to you all to justify this plan after October 2014, when the ordinance passed, is inadmissible. It is not something you should consider. It is after the fact. It is post hoc. It is irrelevant. If they didn't have it when they passed the ordinance shouldn't have passed. So what we're asking you to do is the right thing. You've heard people come and talk about their personal experiences. The last time I was here, I talked about my personal experiences. But if your heart doesn't move you to do the right thing, your head should motivate you to make a reasonable choice. And the reasonable choice here is to adopt a win-win plan, Councilman Smith, that gives you your ponds, allows you to address the flooding issues in your communities, but we're your constituents too. And so we can enjoy a win that allows us to stay in our homes. If the question is about setbacks and whether there's enough space between the pond and the houses, Jeff Moran spent 5 years as an expert in that particular area of engineering. So don't just ask the Department of Watershed engineers, ask other engineers. That's what engineers do. They check each other's work. That's why the City of Atlanta outsources so much of its engineering work to outside engineering firms like the firm we hired to represent us in this matter.
That's right.
So your question should not just be to the people who proposed this plan and are justifying it in the absence of sufficient evidence. you should consult other experts. We brought one for you here today. If you have questions, bring him back up to the mic. He will answer them. Because when I hired them, they told me, we're going to look at the data, and if the data shows that they need your house, that is the information we have to share with you. They are professionally bound to do so. I didn't hire a hired gun. I hired an engineering firm to tell me the truth. And we're here telling you there is another way. Page 14 shows the other way with 3 ponds, Councilman Smith, 3 ponds. You can put a park, a pond, trees. You can put a lot of things there, but you can also leave the homes that are there. And I have heard in 4 open sessions in court, I have heard the law department attorneys say, as soon as Miss Maddie dies, we're going to take her house. This is not something I'm making up, Councilman Smith. I see the look on your face that I'm lying. I don't have to lie. There are other people who have been to court with us who heard it. Stand up if you heard it. Stand up if you heard somebody from the law department or their hired attorney say, when Miss Maddie dies, we're taking the property. That is so callous when it's unnecessary. No one should do that to someone. Amen. And so we have a solution. Kudos to Councilman Bond and Councilman Dickens for at least putting this on the front burner so you can reevaluate what you did not have in front of you. Ms. Palmer just stood at this mic. She told you that the information was not made available to her, and that is not the way engineering is done. That is a breach of professional ethics for that discipline. So you all have an opportunity. You don't have to do it because you care.
Do it because it's right.
You don't have to do it because it's right. Just do it. Do it because it makes sense. Do it because it's your job. Do it because the engineering says you can do it. Do it because you represent your constituents. Do it because they deserve for eminent domain not to be used unless it's absolutely necessary. And in the absence of evidence establishing that it's absolutely necessary, it should not be used. And it is unlawful for it to be used. So I am hopeful that the bright minds on this council are going, on this committee, are going to consider this information. Please don't just cast it aside. Read it. It's information, it's relevant information. And ask not just the Department of Watershed, but ask other engineers. And let me tell you some questions you might want to ask the Department of Watershed. Where are the Conley vaults? The Conley vaults capture, according to the city's documents, twice as much water as the ponds on my block. Why didn't you build them? What are you waiting for? That's 5 million gallons of water that would be captured compared to 2 million gallons on a block. You already own that property. You don't have to displace anybody to build the Conley vaults. What is the delay? That was part of the 4-part plan. What happened to it? So, given that we have a win-win solution that allows you to address your flood mitigation goals and allows the residents to stay, I can't imagine why you would not adopt this plan unless there's something we don't know.
Well done.
All right, Deborah Scott. 10 minutes, please.
Good afternoon, Deborah Scott, Georgia Stand Up, and we thank you for listening today. And we know that you inherited this issue, and we apologize that you're put in this position. But we ask you today, this is National Voter Registration Day, and we actually should be in a park down the street, Woodruff Park, celebrating National Voter Registration Day and getting people registered to vote so that they can vote for their elected officials that will represent them. But today we thought best to do our civic duty by being here to support the residents of Peoplestown. And isn't it funny that the name is Peoplestown? And the street that we're talking about is Atlanta Avenue. So just a little history, and as most of you know, in fact I had my baby shower here in this room 26 years ago. I used to be a city employee for 7 years. And so I remember a case in 1999, and I believe her name was Delores Norman. And so Delores Norman was a little girl sliding down a slide in Stanton Park. And she was burned, 3rd and 4th degree burns, because the park was built on a landfill. And no one told her mother. And the gas started coming up and started burning the kids as they were going down the slides. Now she sustained 3rd and 4th degree burns, and she is now 20-something years old, has graduated from college with her burns. I bring that up because sometimes we have to remember history. Sometimes we have to remember that this place now called John Lewis Freedom Parkway was once Presidential Parkway and then Freedom Parkway. But before that, there was an organized group called Caution. And what they did, they were looking out for their residents of Virginia Avenue, Ponce Highland, and those neighborhoods on that side. When they were going to take their homes and build a highway through their neighborhood so that they could connect to Stone Mountain. And the residents in the 80s said no. They said no. This was a DOT matter, this was a state matter. President Jimmy Carter got involved. Mayor, at the time, he was a council member, Bill Campbell was involved, Maynard Jackson was involved. And what they decided to do is, despite the fact that developers and other people wanted this highway to go directly to Stone Mountain, they said, you know what, we're going to listen to the residents of the city of Atlanta, and they're going to say, find another way. They stopped that project. Now, it took many, many years, and that was a very diverse coalition. But that was my first education in the city of Atlanta, because when the people resist and the elected officials hear you, they'll do the right thing. So it's been over 30 years. New elected officials are here. But if we don't pay attention to history, your city won't be here. The city that you know that we love, Atlanta Avenue, the residents of Atlanta Avenue will not be here. And it's up to you to make a decision today. It's up to you to do the right thing. It's up to you to say, if the engineer said, you know what, that can't be done, why? Ask that other question. We'll pay for the engineer to stay in town a couple more days. Find out why. Find out what's really going on. Because it can't be about flooding when it doesn't flood anymore. There were 27 homes on that block.
48.
There are now 4 residents, and they're standing. Please stand up. They're standing and they're asking you, as their elected officials, to do the right thing. Now, I was reminded yesterday, one of the longest funerals I had ever been to was Ralph David Abernathy.
All right.
His funeral was about 5.5 hours, 5 hours and 15 minutes. Yesterday, his wife beat him out. It was about 5 hours and 30 minutes.
Tell it.
Juanita Abernathy, rest in peace.
Yes, rest in peace.
But I was reminded as I saw a slew of elected officials standing up and praising her good works, and praising Martin Luther King, and praising Coretta Scott King. Because we like to talk about the history of the city of Atlanta and how the city too busy to hate. We like to talk about this is the hotbed of the civil rights movement. Where do you stand? This is a time of your conscience to say, let me do the right thing in spite of the politics. In spite of somebody wanting a dog park.
Tell it.
In spite of somebody needing a pond. This is a win-win situation. Now, if it was impossible and it couldn't be done, I would personally advise these residents that it couldn't be done and we got to figure out another way.
But
through discovery, we found actually there was inconsistent information and it could have been done. And so now that we know that, and I'm so sorry for the 23 residents that had to move, but we have 4 left that said they're not going anywhere. So as those folks with Presidential Parkway, Freedom Parkway, now John Lewis Parkway, stood in front of the bulldozers and climbed the scaffolding, they said, no, we're not going. We stand, Georgia Stand Up, and the community stand and say, we're not going. We're not going.
We're not
tell it.
We're not going. We're not going.
We're not going. So every single city council meeting, we will be here.
We're not going.
Every single committee meeting, we will be here.
Amen.
We're not going anywhere.
We're not going.
So you have 3 lawsuits going on and millions of dollars spent on outside counsel to fight for their homes. So it's a David and Goliath situation. And there's 2 kinds of power. There's organized people and there's organized money. We don't have the money.
We got
but
people.
We will organize this entire city. We will organize this entire city because it's wrong. This is now a national issue. People are talking about this all over the country. And we stand in disrespect for these residents? How dare us? How dare we stand at funerals and talk about the legacy of civil rights icon when this is a civil rights issue happening right here in the city of Atlanta in 2019?
Yes. Tell it.
Yes. Where do you stand? Where do you stand? Today we're asking you to stand with the constituents of the city of Atlanta. I'm talking to every single elected official in the city of Atlanta, whether you're on this committee or not. Whether you're a mayor, a former mayor, a city council member, a county commissioner, where do you stand today? So on voter registration day, National Voter Registration Day, we're saying stand with your constituents that put you in office.
Stand.
Stand with your people that say this is wrong. Stand with the engineer that says we got to work around.
Stand.
Now we're going to go back in executive session and look at things and talk about what happened there and say we can't do it.
Yes, you can.
But when we ask you to look at what the engineer, a bipartisan engineer, an engineer that has nothing to do with the city of Atlanta, for him to say this could be done and for you not to consider it is unconscionable.
So true.
And in 2019, we're asking you to do the right thing.
The right thing.
I said do the right thing. I said do, this is still my time, the right thing.
Please be quiet.
Do the right, I'll do it. Do the right thing. Do it. Do the right thing. 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 Do the right thing.
You got a minute.
Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do
got a minute.
the right thing. Do 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 the right thing.
Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing.
Again, I want to thank you. I want to thank you because you shouldn't be in this position.
But
you are. To whom much is given, much is required. Amen. You are sitting and occupying the people's seat in the people's house. The people need you to do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Thank you very much. Do it.
It's a hard act to follow.
Well said.
How much time do I have? 10 minutes, please. 10 minutes. Okay. A couple of things. I am not going to, good morning, by the way.
I want to thank Councilmember Dickens for doing this paper. We appreciate it very much. I will say I am not going to talk technicalities or legalities. Tanya Washington and the engineer has that covered going and coming, so I'm not going to talk that, except that I do understand that there is a argument abroad in the land here at City Hall that this paper would provide a gratuity to the Dardens and to Tanya Washington. I have to smile at that because City Hall over the last several years has not been reluctant to give gratuities to folk who have power and position in the city. Tyler Perry received a, correct me if I'm wrong, 330 acres. 330 acres over at Fort McPherson and paid a 40 or 60, by memory, I haven't checked my note, paid a 40 or 60 million dollar discount on each acre. Wouldn't you like to buy a house and get a discount of 40 or 60%? Right. So I just almost laughed when I heard that folks would say, we can't give them a gratuity because of the state constitution. When I offered a letter from legal counsel at the state capitol saying that it was a gratuity that Tyler Perry received, I heard a numbing silence. But when poor folk or folk from the neighborhood want to get done right, then we hear this argument that it is just very, very unfortunate.
Tell it.
Over the last several years, I've gotten to know the Dardens and Tanya Washington, and we have become friends. And I've watched them very closely. They probably didn't understand how closely I've watched them. I watch them very closely, and I've been impressed by many stories. The story that has kind of moved me the most, and I've told this story before, but it bears repeating, because some of y'all weren't here, and some of y'all forget, and some of y'all need to be told more than once. Repetition has its benefits. I heard the story about how when they bought the house, they got their pastor to come to the house.
Excuse me, it's not a quorum.
Don't worry, there's a quorum out there.
See?
The people listening to this is the quorum that I'm worried about. Because Dustin Hill and Joy Shepard can leave the room, but they can't leave this issue.
Tell it!
So don't worry about it.
That's right.
Let your heart not be troubled. We got a quorum.
I ain't scared.
We got a quorum of righteousness on our side. As I was saying, they got their pastor, you know, their church is about 3 blocks up from their house. I've been to their church, great service. Y'all ought to go sometime.
All right.
Great church. And so they had their pastor come down to the house, and they stood on the front lawn, and he blessed the house. And he blessed the house, saying that we're going to bless this house for the time, not just the time that of the mortgage. We're going to bless this house because they're going to live in it until they what? Die. So when I heard that story, I knew they were blessed. And now the city comes behind us and talks about, we're going to take your house. And I want to address something. I'm not talking about some of the folk on council. But there are folk on council who couldn't get in this place, couldn't come in the front door at City Hall, if not for folk like these. Couldn't come in. I know I could have come through the front door of City Hall about 40 years ago.
All right.
And the reason I could come through the front door is because of people like these. They
went out to vote.
These folk.
Yes, Maddie Jackson too.
Maddie Jackson.
Yes.
You know Miss Maddie.
Yes, indeed.
Put her life on the line.
On the line.
So that certain folk could come through the front door at City Hall.
Do the right thing.
And hold these positions. And allow folk to wear them good suits.
And they didn't want to turn you back on.
And now you're forgetting the people that brought you here.
Tell it.
Sure did. Sure did.
I don't care if I've hurt your feelings or not. I've hurt some folk feelings recently.
Right. Tell it.
I could care less.
Thank you.
I'm more concerned with the righteousness of the issue.
And the people.
And the people. And so, knowing that, to turn our backs on the Dardens of the world, you know, it's just unbelievable. I thought this was going to be a better council. I thought it was going to be a better city council. But facts have intervened. It shows me that this council about worse than the last council.
Sure is.
Why? Because they think that they're doing the right thing. They think that they're smarter, more efficient.
They've got to put them in office, though.
And now we see their true colors of some of them.
Not all.
And I'm always hopeful. I know it doesn't seem like that all the time, but I'm hopeful that the council will do the right thing. But I hope you will not hold this paper, that you will move it forward. Move it forward to city council, put it on the mayor's desk, and give her the opportunity to sign the paper.
Good Christmas present.
That would be on this issue of whose city is this?
Thank you.
On that great question, whose city is this?
Ours.
Is it the big developers, folk with money, or is it the people's house? Is this the people's city?
It's the people's city.
And that question, you know, because y'all, and I'm sorry if I've offended anyone, but I think the issues of gentrification, corruption, and corruption are more important than anything.
Tell it right.
Tell it.
You know, this city is being gentrified in ways that I don't believe are happening, even as we speak. This would be a great gesture. I'm reluctant to accept gestures, but this would be a monumental gesture if y'all could do the right thing in this instance. So I came here this morning to support my good friends. I will support them till the end, whether it's in the courtroom or City Hall or in the streets. So thank you so much for listening. I'm looking forward to further discussion on this issue. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you.
All right. All right, we're going to the
Mr. Chair, I had to go to the bathroom, so anybody want to know where I was?
Yep, we wanted to know.
Can I go?
All right, we've got ordinances for first read. If you could please read those in. Thank you.
Item number 1, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2020 Commercial Paper Proceeds Fund budget in the amount of $10 million and 0 cents to transfer funds from the Watershed Commercial Paper Proceeds for appropriations and add funds to the plant capital maintenance project and for other purposes. Item number 2, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to
Do the right thing. 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 Do it. 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 Do the right thing. Do it.
My name is Jeff Moran with House Consulting.
You're good.
And the purpose of me being here, we just came out of a city council meeting to talk about the issues of Peoplestown, specifically the need for retention pond and the win-win solution to keep the residents that are there remaining. So to my right is a schematic that we briefed. This was provided to the mayor earlier this year, and this is part of our talking point. To the right of the schematic are the families and friends and neighbors of those directly affected. So the city council members heard what they had to say. But as far as from an engineering perspective, I just want to touch on what we believe is the right thing. It's a win-win solution for sure. And I just want to set the context of this. This schematic was based on information, the mapping, contours, capacity requirements provided by the city engineers.
Yeah.
In a meeting in April with the mayor had asked me, did we have a solution, an alternative solution to the retention pond that would allow the 4 homes on the People's Town to remain. We did not have it at the time. We pulled together a schematic. This is of conceptual nature. But I'll tell you, it does meet, these 3 ponds meet the capacity requirements, again, calculated and specified by the city. Now, there's a couple of issues that may remain with that. Well, number 1, engineers are problem solvers, not obstructionists. And I'm starting to hear feedback that these ponds cannot be constructed for various reasons. I don't believe that to be the case. I think that is what has plagued this project, is withholding engineering information, not sharing, not being transparent with engineering. So with respect to these ponds, they can be reconfigured, they can be modified, they can be altered, the capacity can be increased, and the homes can remain. And that was really the message for City Council. What we spoke about from an engineering, and I say we because it was myself and Kim Palmer, who was the project manager in charge of this initiative, that spoke and said that the taking of these homes is not justified from an engineering perspective.
Any questions? Any questions?
So, my name is Tanya Washington, and I live in this house right here, 148 Atlanta Avenue.
Come on.
My neighbors live in the other houses that are represented on this board, and as the engineer said, the city's flood mitigation goals can be achieved while leaving these homes in place. And that represents a win-win. Why would you not adopt this plan when it is possible to achieve your goals and leave the residents in place unless there's something else going on?
Tell it.
So what has been presented to the mayor and to the city council is this alternative plan. The engineering firm that put it together rivals the engineers in the city's Department of Watershed. If there are questions, they can be directed to those engineers to ask and answer and explain this alternative. And I expect that the mayor and the city council is going to choose this alternative plan. I think that's a reasonable expectation. I think it makes sense politically. I think it makes sense fiscally. I think it makes sense in terms of engineering. And I think it makes sense in terms of this being a city that cares about legacy residents and legacy neighborhoods. You don't move people unless you need to move people. And what we've done is stayed in the litigation long enough to discover actual documents, correspondence from the city Department of Watershed city engineers raising questions before the first house was torn down, that they didn't have what they needed to justify this plan. And so my expectation is that the city, the mayor, is going to do the right thing. It doesn't take that long. This has been 6.5 years. How long does it take to do the right thing?
How long? And my husband and I, Robert and Bertha Doherty, we can concur with what Ms. Tanya Washington Hicks has said, simply because we knew that if it wasn't for us to stay there, God would have allowed us and showed us it's time for us to go. And I'm talking what I know. If it wasn't for us to stay there, the God I serve, the God we serve, would have told us it's time for us to go. When we met with Mayor Bottom, we let her know that, I don't need this name. We let her know that we took a stand to stay in our home because it was the right thing for us to do. There was no need for us. There was no need for us to. There was no need for us to move. And when we don't have to move, and our engineers have given you more than enough reasons why we shouldn't move, why is it taking the city so long to make the right decision for us to just continue to stay in our home? Because, first of all, I don't know whether they are ashamed of making a mistake, but two wrongs don't make no right. It was wrong for our former mayor, so we're asking Mayor Bottom, don't make it wrong again by not doing what's right. It's high time. Yes, it's high time to do what's right. And let us stay in our home and let us continue to live our rest of our lives the way we want to live. Because there's no need for us to move. My husband's worked for the city over 30 years.
That means something, don't it?
We raised our children in this neighborhood. You heard our son talk about what we had to go through the years that we was there. And now the neighborhood is prospering.
Now they want you to move.
It's prospering. And now you want us to move.
All right, tell it.
It's not fair, it's not right, and we're not going to stand for you doing us wrong. We're not going to stand for you doing us wrong. So, as I said before, we are the three Hebrew children. Hello. We are the fiery furnace. But you know, somebody got in the furnace with them, and the same person that got in the furnace with them is in the furnace with us now. So throw your rocks and hide your hands all you want. Just like I told former Reed, you don't do right by us, you're going to have to suffer the consequences. So now, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? Are you going to do what's right? Or are you going to continue to do what's wrong? Because, look, I want to enjoy the rest of my senior years without this hanging over our shoulders. So leave us alone. Leave us alone. Thank you.
Leave us alone.
All right. I would like to say just one thing. How long?
How long?
Not long.
Not long.
How long?
How long?
Not long.
Not long.
I'm not going to speak that long. I'm just going to leave a couple of words that my mom would normally say when she get upset. Lord, don't you move my mountain, but give me the strength to climb. And we're going to climb this mountain. The battle, we're fighting it. The battle is not ours, it's the Lord, but hey, we're going to climb this mountain and we're going to win.
All right.
That's it. All right.
Right.
Do the right thing, City Council.
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
All right. That's it?
Yeah.
That's it.